So welcome everyone to the group session on the partial solar eclipse of in Scorpio and the new moon in Scorpio. So there's quite a lot of energy in Scorpio. And I was just going to ask everyone if you, even if you're watching this as a recording, we have a lot of people that won't be able to join live, but right now you can set your intentions for this session. For those of you that didn't read or didn't have an opportunity to see, the little bit I sent out, the blurb on Scorpio, if you're not familiar with the energy, well, it's a big energy. It's interesting because we're, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, we're starting to head into the darker time of year where the days are really getting short and the nights are getting much longer. And so I think that that's symbolic for the energy of Scorpio. I love reading about the myths of like the Greek mythology and Roman mythology of the planets, sort of, how their archetypal energy, what they're drawn from historically. And one of the things that one of the ruling planets, the planet Pluto, historically governed was everything under the earth, so that which is hidden. And it also interestingly governs surgeries and scars. So it's a really kind of penetrating, getting into the depth of things. And if you are a Scorpio, happy birthday. It's coming up. Oh, Sheila. Oh, okay. Watch out for her. But it's interesting because we never go into depth because each of you have your own very individual chart. So there's all kinds of different planetary influences. So if you're born under the sun sign of Scorpio, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be all of these things because there's a lot of other dynamics at play. But for purposes of these group sessions, I tend to focus on wherever the moon cycle is and in what planetary influence. So it helps to narrow and bring in our focus for that. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting that it governs, everything under the earth. And Hades, which was the Greek energy of Pluto. Sorry, I just want to make sure everyone is on mute. It was really like the devil in a way. So, he sort of hoarded over and guarded the riches underneath the earth. There's a huge story and you should read it. His mythology and story, it's fascinating. One of the ways that I actually became really interested in a fun way of learning about it was, is it Rick Riordan, the Percy Jackson novels? Yeah, Sheila, thank you. Sheila, you see, this is our Scorpio. She is like on the ball today. So I bought these books for one of my nephews when he was in his early teens, and they're the Percy Jackson series. So there's been a whole bunch of movies, but I would strongly recommend the books. So of course, because I bought them for him, I wanted to read them so I understood, and we had, yet another way of communicating. And they're just wonderful because they really do, they are about these sort of demigods or semi-gods that are part human, part God. And then this whole setting is all about the gods and their interactions. So one of the things that really stayed with me, I can't remember which book it was, but the hero and heroine are in front of Hades, and Hades has managed to steal the hero's mother away, and so they're trying to get her back. And the child says, or the hero, the young boy says something, and Hades says, oh yeah, he says, well, that's not fair. And Hades says, really? Whoever said life was fair? And that really sums up a lot of this kind of energy. So when we get into the 8th house, we've just gone through the 7th house of relationships and partnerships and seeking equanimity in our relationships. And when we get into the 8th house, it's like, oh, it's not always fair. Things aren't always balanced. In fact, things can be very imbalanced. And there can be someone that's holding the power and someone that isn't. And I mean, if we look around, it's kind of a reality check in a way, because it's like it's really shifting those veils of what we want to believe about life versus what is in fact happening. And it's not to say that life can't be fair, but it's also to say that life can be very unfair. And so these beliefs that will hold us into these attachments of fairness or unfairness, I think that's why it really struck me, that just that simple saying, whoever told you that life was fair? So for my Canadian friends, which I know we have many of, me being one of them, you know, I remember looking at surveys of, yay, Canada. I remember looking at surveys of what are Canadians' greatest values, and number one was fairness. So, you know, it's just so interesting, but that is what we call a social agreement. We have agreed in Canada that fairness is a priority, and our laws and our legislation and all of these agreements that we have and we make aspire to that kind of contract and agreement with each other. But then life is going to happen, and we're going to start to see that, yes, that's what I want to be, but it's not always the truth. And so, you know, this is the energy of Pluto, where it's like that slap in the face awakening. And I don't know why I'm going on to, I don't usually talk this much, but I just find this so interesting, probably because it resonates with me. Okay, so glass is always full. I want everything to be happy. I want to create peace and harmony with everyone. I want it all to be sunshine and flowers, right? So then life comes along and goes, push, push. And I get burned by people and I get hurt, you know, all of us do, right? So, and I'm laughing about it, but of course, during that process, it's so very painful because, you know, we want to love and connect. And so when we're hurt and stung, and especially when we have that bright outlook and we want so bad for things to be positive, that it's like this major polar opposite, and it's a transformation. And, you know, and then you can kind of go down into the bitter hole for a while and feel, you know, get maybe a chip on your shoulder. So there's all of these dynamics. And I'm sort of sharing some of my thoughts and experiences, not just in my own life, but what I've seen in my practice with clients and those insights. So I just thought I'd share some of my particular understanding of a little bit of this energy. A few other things that I was thinking of, because I feel like these themes are really very relevant to potential shifts in what we're all coming for, and what also may help you to, you know, say, okay, what is it that I would like some more insight in or balancing in? Certainly power dynamics in relationships, and, you know, our power or feeling powerless, being manipulated, you know, not seeing or manipulating. And one of the things that I thought about with that is, you know, when I think of manipulation initially, I think of someone who is kind of nasty and controlling and, you know, all these things. And it's not necessarily someone who you'd think of as nice. But then when we're looking at the Scorpio energy, we're really looking at our underlying motives that oftentimes we're not even aware of. So even in being a really nice person and being a very giving person, almost to a fault, could that be manipulation? So am I trying to win your love over and be this really nice person with this subconscious belief at some level that I want your love, and I'm trying to control you by being, you know, killing with kindness? And so I've, you know, again, just sharing the many different means and ways that, you know, darkness can also look really light. and lightness can be very dark, right? So it's just that broader perspective. So there is a little food for thought. I'm just actually going to review my oh yeah, so I did share some sort of archetypes, of more modern archetypes, in my initial invitation. You know, when we talk the magician or the alchemist, and often with Scorpio, there's going to be an association more with the dark arts, because historically this planetary sign has been associated with the mysteries and spirituality, and really all sides. But magician quality ultimately is the alchemy, being able to transform. And one of the things that I wrote down is, you know, this destroyer or revolutionary, right? So it's like a desire to destroy that which isn't working, but it's comes out of an understanding that it's not working. And so destruction is a means of actually creating a new balance. So it can be a very catalytic energy in our lives and force in our lives. So all that being said, is something like this going to happen? You know, I think it's the 25th. I have the actual date and time of the eclipse and the new moon. So the 25th at 6:49 a.m. So, but the energies are already happening right now. And so does this mean that something catalytic is going to happen? Possibly. And does that mean like bad? Not necessarily. Oftentimes it's like a wake up in some way. So perhaps there's an area of your life that it's like, okay, I really do need to wake up in this area, or it can just really be a big shift in perspective or an eye opener. We have a conjunct of Venus happening right now as well. In this new moon. And so conjunct means that they're cozy. They're both at 2 degrees. And so the sun and, or the moon and the Venus at 2 degrees in Scorpio. And so when it's a cozy alignment like that, it means that the energy of Venus will be predominant as well. So Venus is, of course, it's our relationships. It's what we love, or what we think we love. And so this being in Scorpio, this is like a polarity. So when you're looking at your astrological chart, you have the 8th house, and then the polar opposite of that is the 2nd house, which is governed by Venus. So the 2nd house is all about what's mine, my wealth, my house, my mind. The 8th house is about what's ours, or what's shared resources, and then also other people's money, including banks and the tax man. And so there's this dynamic at play here of those polarities because of where Venus is situated. So there may be some opportunity for catalyzing or shifting or changing within your relationships, even your relationship with money and finance. So yes, I just, again, I'm not sure what everyone's level of astrology is at. Honestly, part of my intent, so I'm going to be really transparent. I love doing these group sessions. They're really enjoyable for me, but they're also, for me, I choose themes, and it's an opportunity for me to dive in and do my own research and expand my own awareness, so I can actually then, bring that into these sessions, but also into my practice and just my own life, right? So that's my my part of my reasoning of why I do these, because it's like, if I commit to you every 2 weeks, then I have no choice but to actually, well, I have a choice. I could show up and not know anything, but that would be very un-Capricorn of me. So let's do the session. And if anyone, I haven't even, I've got some chats coming in, so I will just take a look. Okay. So we've got some personal stuff, so I'll get to that later. But anyway, let's go into the session. So I'm going to invite everyone to just take a few deep breaths, and wherever you're at in your day, just start to allow your breath, with that exhalation, just really let it go. And Yes, with your breath, letting it go. So I am going to go into my Mindscape, which is a body talk system method of creating an internal space for building intuition and accessing intuition. So I used to joke that I live in there all the time. I still think I do, but I'm going to more formally go in and start to bring the energy of the group in. And the other thing that you may want to do is just tap into any physical tension that you feel, or pain, or even emotional tension, and just allow your breath to settle into that area and gently open that area up with your breath. Okay, so when I invite the group energy in, I'm not actually getting any image of the group itself. What I'm seeing is just a very dark night sky and this expansive, cool space. So there's lots of space here, and then one star. It really starts to zoom in, and when that star comes close to me, it's actually Venus. And so I'm going to observe that. And I'm going to get a pen that actually works, so I don't lose what I'm making note of here. Okay, so Venus. So Venus, the goddess of love, often, wherever it is in your chart, it represents what you love. It's love and beauty and comfort. On its more sort of pathological or negative sides, it can be needy, and yeah, in a way clingy or over emotional. So, but we're just bringing in the whole energy in initially. Okay, so I'm also going into, at least to begin with, subconscious mind level. And then going to consciousness balancing of the limbic brain, of your limbic brain. And so the limbic brain is known as the emotional brain. And what is coming up here is a consciousness of right living, or a consciousness of dharmic living. And this is being anchored into your heart. And so really how I see this is like elevating to a higher frequency of awareness, of alignment of what's right for you. And it's coming up in this emotional subconscious level. Not to say that the higher levels of the mind, sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're monkey mind, right? But that's why it's coming up in a way in here, is this elevation of awareness at more of that intuitive emotional level of aligning what right living is for you, and anchoring this into your heart. And so the energy of Venus is like an umbrella right now, and the word harmony really is coming in, and the quality of harmony. And you know, harmony is synchronicity in a way, right? It's when the different areas of our lives and the different roles we play are working in flow, in harmony. So that's in relation to this moving up to a higher octave of awareness. Okay. So then I'm linking from here into your throat area. And what comes up is all the things you wish you had said. And when I go into the throat area, it's like initially it's your whole throat area, but then I'm being brought into the lymph. So all your little cervical lymph nodes throughout your whole neck, both the deep and superficial. And so these words that were never said, the lymph is coming in to support the cleansing, both of the emotions of that, as well as how that physically impacted your throat area, any tightness, any even tonal quality. I've heard people's voices actually change after sessions, like the tonality of their voice. So that's what's coming up, is this balancing, using the lymph to help to shift the tension of that regret and that, you know, retrospective belief and perspective there. And then I'm linking into the center of your throat. I'm really going into your thyroid gland. So the thyroid is responsible. One of its roles is to provide a balance in metabolism so that we have energy for growth, for repair, for really everything, you know, even building our white blood cells in our immune system. It's the building, it provides the hormones and the catalyst for building blocks in our bodies. And due to its center, of course, it has to do with our communication and self-expression. So I'm just tapping into your thyroid. And so the first priority is to do a Wei Qi balancing on your thyroid, which is Wei Qi being your protective energy of your thyroid. And okay, so earlier on, when I went into your thyroid initially, I was getting something about sexuality, and then, but it was kind of flittering in and out, and I wasn't sure what it was, and so then I had to go more specifically into the Wei Qi, and now sexuality is coming up, and so this is about communication about sexuality. It's actually a pathological consciousness of communication about sexuality. So whether it's like talking about sexuality or even the expression of sexuality, but it's about your self-expression within sexuality and helping to shift these beliefs that limit that expression. And so whatever they are, the conscious, subconscious, whatever your history is to help to shed the restrictions of those from this expression of sexuality, this communication, your being able to communicate. And I'm not going to, I'm going to talk about this a little bit, but it's like, sexuality, what is that? It's a big topic, right? And there are many different perspectives, beliefs. I'm not going to go into that because for each of you, it's very personal. And so it's personal to you. Okay. So what's coming up is to actually bring this in a way to ground this. So even though I am focused on your thyroid at the consciousness level, and consciousness level being the functional level, the role of your thyroid in your whole body mind. And so this relates in some way to your metabolism. And so it's like suppression. So what has been suppressed and how is that then influencing the function and role of metabolism and energy production and rebuilding, all of those roles within your thyroid. So that's what's coming in here, is to kind of ground it into that. So then I'm linking into a body chemistry, still focused within the throat and thyroid area. So if you are a body talker, in body talk, we do a little saliva sample from under your tongue. I use my baby finger, and then you pop that into your navel. If your navel isn't accessible, you can just put it over your heart area, your thymus gland, or behind your left ear. These are all strong energy centers. So when we're doing a body chemistry balancing, what we're looking at is at the chemistry level, which includes hormones and neurotransmitters and like all microbes, toxins, like a whole plethora of potential here. So I'm going to go more specific. I'm actually going into allergies, and I'm going even further in allergies to so I'm actually looking at something within the environment. Okay, so what's coming up is other people's emotions. So in particular, other people's strong emotions. So when I'm looking, and when I balance at this level, it's like, in a way, it's oriented to, so we were looking at a generalized allergy balancing, which is what? It's a strong reaction in your body. And it's oriented to other people's strong emotions. So it's like how your body is chemically responding to that and helping to bring that into some balance for you. Okay. So we're going to tap this first formula out, and the hand positions, you can put your hands to the side of your head. So this is really to represent your limbic brain, which is the first item that we're balancing in this whole formula. So taking deep breaths, you can tap along with me if you like. You want to tap as you breathe. Take one hand up and just over your head, over your heart, and then over your belly. And then if you feel to keep tapping, please keep going. Okay, so I'm going to, I don't know, right now it's a little more visuals coming in. So what's coming in is the archetypal energy of Scorpio. I talked a little bit when I say archetypal energy. Part of the reason why I read these myths about the planets and the signs is because the archetype is really their story. So their story gives us an indication of what they represent and how they influence our own lives. So what's coming up is the Scorpio archetype, the Scorpio energy. And I'm not getting more specific right now, but within that energy, I'm actually linking into the outer region of your entire brain. So you have all these wonderful folds all around your cortex, and they fold right in, they go deep in your brain, and that gives you, tons and tons of connections. But my focus here, what's coming up, is the very external outside of your brain. And what comes up with this, or sort of I guess a comparison in a way, is like when we think about the cell. So you think about your cell or your skin. So your skin is, in continual communication with your environment. A cell is in continual, the cellular membrane is continual communication with its environment. So that's what's coming up here, is this outer part of your brain, the very outer layer of the cortex, and its sensory communication with the external environment. And so that's what's coming up. I'm not sure what we're doing in here, but that's how it's showing up. And so I'm just going to keep going with this. Okay, so the first thing that's coming up, or the first priority, is really enhancing this nerve supply all around the outside of your brain, as well as hydration in relation to the cerebral spinal fluid that is continually bathing your brain. So enhancing that hydration, this is defined by heat. My sense here is that it's like a soothing of your nervous system, a soothing of your brain. And I just feel like it's very sort of a high frequency is what we're working at, the level we're working at. So, okay. Okay, so what also is coming up is it's this area of our brain. So what is our brain doing? It's always thinking, it's communicating, it's connecting, it's putting things together for us, it's helping us to plan, it's helping us to feel. So what is coming up is your subtle senses. So there is this balancing to heighten all of your subtle senses, particularly in relation to your outer regions of your brain within the Scorpion energy. And so this is where Scorpio is coming in, because Scorpio is a water sign. It's very intuitive and very deeply emotional. and guided by emotion and instinct and intuition. And so it's all of those subtle senses, that sense of, you know, clairaudience, um, like, you know, all the subtle senses. I can't think of all the clairs right now, but fine tuning your subtle sense of touch, what you sense. You know, if you think about what a Scorpio is, like it's kind of interesting, because I did a little research on the actual Scorpio, and they don't just attack, they attack only if they're threatened, right? So, but there's this really very intuitive primordial energy with that. And so it's a survival, very penetrating. So this is about very much, you know, I want to say the word heightening your subtle senses, your intuition, your instinct, but it's more about deepening so it's about your being able to go more deeply for you, into others, into circumstances and situations. So you can see through the dark is what's really coming up, right? So it's like, you know, if you walk into a dark place, you're able to sense your way through. So it's that kind of heightening or deepening of the energy. I don't know why we have to use your brain in this, except that I think perhaps, you know, when we think about our evolutionary process, what has continued to grow? Our brain. Our brain continues to grow. And so it's interesting that we're linking into these outer regions of your brain. Perhaps this is like, you know, a new consciousness and awareness and a heightening of our own intuitive evolution in a way. So let's go with that because it sounds good. So we're going to actually tap this out, and I invite you to hold your hands over your head. I'm also now, as we're doing this, linking into the governing vessel 20 point, the 100 meetings point, that has to do with habits and patterns and learned behaviors. So it's like plugging this whole formula into the governing vessel 20. You can start tapping with me, and nice deep breaths to help to integrate this additional layer of depth within your intuition and instinct and your subtle senses. Okay, so what now is coming up is it's kidney adrenal energy. Dr. John Beltime, when he was designing the course for body talkers on the planets and the houses, he also paralleled with the 12 houses, the 12 meridians. And so the eighth astrological house, the house of Scorpio, is also partnered with kidney energy. And so we're linking into the kidney and adrenal energy, and it's very much I mean, there's, you know, especially when you're looking from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective and the meridian aspect of it, it's so much more than your kidneys. It's your ancestral chi and your inherited energy and your life force. It's very much about your survival, and the emotion is fear in its balanced state. Fear provides the activity to have willpower to keep us alive. So, it's like when I say it's a natural state, we have to have fear in a way. And because fear less, I always look at that word. It's like, yes, fear less, don't fear not at all. Fear less, right? So courage arises, but it requires the energy of fear in order to help to implement and keep us going. So I like to, sort of understand the broader understanding of these emotions, because oftentimes we just think of fear as bad. But yet fear has such a key role to play in our survival. So we're going into this energy, and and I'm going to get more specific. We're going into your right adrenal gland, and so the priority to balance within your right adrenal gland is the yin and yang energies, the masculine and feminine, or active and passive energies. And so with this comes very macro Western belief of this, we have to be busy all the time. Unfortunately, we have some great Eastern influences that are starting to come in to help to balance that. But I would say that coffee still reigns. And so there's, this macro belief, social belief of this kind of go activity. We are also helping to shift and balance within this masculine and feminine balancing within your right adrenal. So this is linking up into your thymus gland. And balancing consciousness, pathological consciousness of defense patterns. So, what is the role of your thymus gland? It represents protecting your body, your immune system, and protecting your heart. But not overprotecting it, right? It's like if there's too much protection, then the heart isn't expressing itself as openly, and it's not energizing your body. And so this defense pattern in relation to this balancing of your adrenal glands is to help to let go of the attachments or the fears that create a need for that additional defense, so that it's more in harmony. And even those defense patterns can arise from like coping. I need to defend myself and hide my inadequacies. Like, there's all kinds of different potentials that hide behind that defensive. This is to bring it so that it is serving you for who you are now, and helping to let go of some of the past that has perhaps, triggers an excess response here. And we're anchoring this into your heart for individuation. Okay, so, and then I'm bringing in a parallel, and the parallel is balancing your pancreatic reflex point. Some of you may know this point. It sits like 4 fingers down. If you're a woman, it's where an underwire, or the underwire would end. But I mean, I can usually just feel it. I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. So it also, I have to bring in a parallel here. I don't, why, I have no idea. It's just, that's what came up. As soon as I did that thymus balancing, it's like this parallel is coming up. So pancreatic reflex point helps to balance moods, blood sugar. It has many internal connections. there's a traditional Chinese medicine name for it, which is the Great Embrace. And I love that because it's very much about a deep balancing of your earth energy, which is all about support. So, you know, when this is in harmony and balance, then we feel embraced, we feel supported and more at one. So that is how we're going to tap this last formula out. So you can just gently challenge. If you find a little tender spot, it's even better. You want to do it on both sides, but usually if there is an imbalance there, you're going to find it more so on the left side, and then just lifting your right hand and tapping over your head with deep breaths over your heart and over your belly. I'm looking to see if Sherry Carpenter is on the call, but she's not. She's a Scorpio. For some of you may know Sherry Carpenter because she's a body talk instructor, and her birthday falls on October the 31st. So it's great. I was talking to her the other day about it, and she was like, yeah, I still have my first broom. She has a good sense of humor about it. Okay, I'm feeling that we're wrapping up here, but you know, you never know. So I'm just going to bring my focus into everyone and see what is ready to come up. Okay. Again, I'm going to use visuals. So I'm in Mindscape and I ask, you know, is there something else that would like to be balanced? And so this Scorpio is there. And fortunately, he's a friendly little Scorpio. And he just gently turns over and exposes his belly. And so it's very much about vulnerability. And so that's what's coming up. And so initially, when I was just asking what's coming up, I was brought to your lower belly area. And then I was like, oh, maybe we're going to do some balancing on like sex organs, but then this scorpion came in and just gently turned over. And so that's where we're beginning for this last little bit. So it's this theme of vulnerability, and there's also this quality within the archetype of Scorpio of surrender. This is, you know, again, it's like when things are just so much bigger than we are, and being able to surrender and let go and be vulnerable. So that's part of what is coming up here. And so I'm just going to invite everyone to go into your breath and just bring that breath down to your lower belly area. And yeah, just allow that breath to expand and breathe into that surrender and vulnerability. And this is taking me into a permissions balancing. And the permissions is at a emotional level. So when permissions comes up in body talk, it's to help to balance, you know, whatever resistance there is to, in this case, the theme of surrender and vulnerability. The other way that I also look at permissions is in a way that we've, held on to protection in some way because we've needed to. For us, it's whatever it is that we haven't been able to let go of, it's kept us safe. So it's not like, oh, I should let this go. It's not about that. It's just that there's something that's ready to shift. So, and it's at this emotional level. And it's taking me into a belief. So I go into active memories, into beliefs. And the belief is, I'm just refining it here. It is safe to be sensual. It is safe to be sexual. So it's two beliefs that are very intertwined. And those are the beliefs that we are balancing for this permissions. So there's a further definition on this of a release of control. Okay, so we're going to tap this permissions out. So it is coming up under active memory. Hand positions aren't coming up, but if you do want to do this as if you're a body talk practitioner, many of you are, and you want to do it as an active memory, where you're doing the eye circles, you can do that. You can also close your eyes and do it in Mindscape, or you can just tap along because hand positions are not a priority. So saying to yourself, you can say it aloud or you can say it in your mind, it is safe to be sensual, it is safe to be sexual, while we tap this in with deep breaths. It is safe to be sensual, it is safe to be sexual. It is safe to be sensual. It is safe to be sexual. Okay. And so now I'm going to ask that you put one hand over your diaphragm and one hand over your intestines, your belly button, and continue with deep breathing as we help to mobilize any emotions that have risen up with that last formula. Okay, I'm going to be really bold because I think scorpions can be really bold at times. They're pretty direct and honest. That's also another sort of quality. It's like, okay, I don't want to skirt around stuff. Just like, let's get right to it. And I appreciate that quality. I'm going to just tell you a story. So years ago, I decided to go raw for a while. And not raw as in walking around in no clothes, even though that did come to mind, but raw food. And so I was making kale salad and I had to marinate my kale salad. So I chop it up really fine and I put my lemon juice and a little maple syrup, just all this stuff. And then I decided, wow, I need to eat it soon, but it's supposed to marinate overnight. So I decided to bring it with me into the shower because I thought the warmth from the shower, but then what did I do? I started to eat it while I was in the shower. So we're talking about sensuality and giving us permission. It's like, that's very sensual. Food is sensual. Like, so I'm sharing that, right? Because I think that oftentimes we have these sort of limited ideas of what sensuality and sexuality is. And so perhaps part of this is opening up to new perspectives on that. Even if we're not in a relationship, or we are in a relationship, but we're not active, whatever it is, right? It's like, what other ways of expression, and this is creativity and and letting go of those fears. So there we are. That is our session for the Scorpio new moon and the Scorpio eclipse. And I never know what direction these sessions are going to take, and that is because you all share your energy, and that unique mix is what will guide the session. So thank you for that. We actually have a number of people that are part of our group that aren't present, but they all contact me, say, I want to be part of the group. So I make sure I include everyone. So thank you for sharing your energy. The next session will be in 2 weeks, because I'm really enjoying staying consistent, and it will be the full moon in Taurus. So, we're kind of really very much back and forth with the 8th house, the 2nd house, mine, yours. So relationship stuff, and also beauty, joy, love, comfort, and financial security. Those are some of the themes of the next session. So thank you all very much for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next session. Thank you.